Have you ever had one of those moments, you're talking, everything's flowing perfectly, and then bam, it's like a switch flips and you just can't get the words out? Well, today we're going to explore that invisible switch, the one that controls how fluently you speak. And I promise you, the answer is probably not what you're thinking. Let's get into it. So just picture this. You're with your best friends, or maybe you're just talking to yourself in the car. And the words just pour out of you, right? You're not thinking about grammar. You're not hunting for vocabulary. You're just communicating. It's effortless. It feels totally natural. Okay, now let's switch the scene. Imagine you're in a job interview, or you're about to give a huge presentation, or maybe you're just in a meeting with a bunch of people you really want to impress. All of a sudden, you're checking every single word before it leaves your mouth. You start to hesitate. You second guess everything. It's not like you suddenly forgot how to speak. It's that you suddenly feel seen. So what is it? What flips that switch? I mean, it's the same you, right? Same brain, same vocabulary. So what's the big change? Well, that's the exact question we're here to figure out. Most people's first guess is confidence. But that's what I like to call the confidence trap. And it's the very reason why all the common advice you hear usually makes things feel a whole lot worse, not better. See, we tend to think the problem is something out there, like, oh, I just need to learn more grammar, or I just don't have enough confidence. But the real issue? It's happening inside. The problem isn't your skill level. It's that your very identity is shifting under pressure, and you suddenly feel like making a single mistake is a massive, massive risk. And this is where our brains go. We start telling ourselves these things. I need more confidence. I have to sound smarter. Maybe if I just prepare more. But these thoughts, they don't help. They just pile on the pressure, making us focus even more on performing perfectly, which is the exact opposite of what we need. So if it's not about confidence, then what in the world is it about? Well, the real answer, that invisible switch, is something much, much deeper. It all comes down to identity. Now, when I say identity, I'm not talking about your whole life story. In this context, it's way simpler. It's just the quiet, subconscious answer your brain gives to the question, who am I supposed to be right now in this situation? And this right here, this shows that switch in action. When you're in private, your identity is totally relaxed. You're just a person talking. But the moment you feel you're in public, that identity shifts. You're not just speaking anymore. Now you feel like you're being watched, evaluated. Your whole self feels like it's on display. And here is the absolute key. The second your identity becomes fragile, the moment you feel like you have to perform perfectly just to be seen as good enough, your fluency takes a nosedive. And listen, it's not because your language skills just disappeared. It's because your brain has switched into survival mode, convinced that making a mistake is now dangerous. That feeling is incredibly real, isn't it? But why? Why does fumbling a word feel like such a huge personal failure? Well, it's because deep down, our brains think the stakes of speaking are incredibly high. Think about it. We don't just use language to share information. We use it to show people who we are. It's completely tangled up with our sense of how smart we are, how competent we are, and even our value in a social group. So stumbling over a word doesn't just feel like a mistake. It can feel like a direct hit to our self-worth. And all that internal tension, that desperate need to sound intelligent and to avoid any and all mistakes, it just completely crushes the one thing that real fluency needs to survive: spontaneity. You simply cannot be spontaneous and critically judging yourself at the exact same time. It's impossible. Okay, so we know the problem. Trying to be perfect just makes everything worse. So what do we do? The solution requires us to completely change our goal. It's time for what we call a stability reframe. So if putting all our energy into being this impressive speaker totally backfires, what are we supposed to aim for instead? Here it is. Honestly, this is the single most important idea we're going to talk about. Fluency doesn't get better when your identity is impressive. It gets better when your identity is stable. It's about feeling grounded and secure in who you are in that moment, no matter how you happen to sound. Let's really break this down. When you're aiming for an impressive identity, your goal is to prove something, to sound super advanced, to perform without a single flaw. But when you shift to a stable identity, the goal changes completely. You're not trying to prove, you're trying to contribute. You don't need to sound advanced, you just need to be clear enough. And you're not aiming for perfection, you're actually allowing for imperfection. So, how do you actually build this kind of stable identity? Well, you can't force it. It happens through something much gentler. Just quietly and curiously observing yourself, with no judgment. You can start just by asking yourself this. Just notice. When do you feel the most watched? Is it when you're talking to your boss, in a group of native speakers, on a video call? Just identifying those triggers is a huge first step. And then go a little deeper. In those moments where you feel so on display, when does that pressure to perform, to sound good, really crank up? What do you think you're trying to prove, and to who? Again, we're not judging here, we're just noticing. And finally, try a little experiment. Next time you're in a pretty low-stakes conversation, make a conscious choice to just let go. Let go of the need to be impressive. What happens when you just focus on connecting with the other person or on contributing your idea, even if it comes out imperfectly? Notice what happens. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. For so long, we've been treating fluency like it's some prize you have to win, this mountain you have to climb. But what if that whole idea is wrong? What if fluency isn't something you achieve at all, but something that's already in you, just waiting for you to finally allow it?